I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt.
If you are coming back to this channel and you got this video recommended to you and you're thinking, oh, I want to know what Sam's thoughts about this election are, you are absolutely about to get all of my thoughts. Like straight out of the way. I do not support Donald Trump in this upcoming election. I support Kamala Harris. And this has nothing to do with my personal opinions regarding Trump. Not at all. In fact, I really like the guy. I like the fact that he's audacious. I love his boldness. I think he has a lot of grit. And the man is content. These are qualities in a person that, regardless of who it is, I could greatly admire and appreciate. My problem more so lies in something that I cannot simply reconcile, and it's his response after he lost the 2020 election. Trump and his team filed 62 court cases contesting the results, and all of them ended up failing in court because there was not enough evidence to back up any of their claims. I can't believe the brain rot that still persists about people actually believing the election was stolen. Judges heard claims of illegal voting. They were without merit, exhaustively investigated. They weren't just thrown out without looking into it. There were 60 court cases where judges, including judges appointed by President Trump, looked at the evidence in many cases and said there was not widespread fraud. It is bullshit. When you make a claim, you have to back it up with sufficient evidence, and that is something that the Trump team could not do. And don't get me wrong, you can't go to court, you can't contest the elections, but even when all of these cases were thrown out, Trump tried to resort to undemocratic means to try and overturn the election. So you might be asking, what were some of these undemocratic means? Well, firstly, in states like Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia, Trump tried to pressure legislators to try and replace the certified electors that are supposed to vote for Biden into ones that would vote for Trump. Secondly, Trump tried to have the Department of Justice claim that the election was stolen against him. In fact, the leader of the department, Bill Barr, aided Trump by trying to find anything that could aid Trump in proving that the election was rigged against him. Yet despite so much effort into digging up for literally anything that they could find, they found nothing. Thirdly, Trump pressured Georgia's officials to try and overturn the election results of that state. In fact, he flat out asked the Georgia Secretary of State to find him 11,780 votes, which is just enough to overturn Biden's victory in that state.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
And when all of that didn't work, Trump tried to pressure his Vice President Mike Pence to reject the certification of the electoral votes, which the Vice President presides over. By the way, the Vice President has no authority to actually reject any of the electoral votes. This is just based on some fringe theory that they actually attempted to implement in their tactics. Obviously, this didn't end up working out in Trump's favor because Mike Pence had the gall not to listen to him, which, by the way, pissed him off very greatly, as well as his supporters, to the point where on January 6th, they started chanting, "Hang Mike Pence," and brought a fucking noose with them. I was a Trump supporter. I wanted him to win, but after the January 6th shit, I couldn't reconcile it. I thought if you were a Republican, if you were a conservative, there would be no chance, no way in hell, you would attack the police. That was outlandish to me. And I saw the BLM riots, and I was like, yeah, this is fucked up.
Of course, sir, they deserve tear gas. They deserve more than tear gas.
We're not as crazy as the leftists, but no, I was proven fucking wrong. Conservatives and Republicans also fucking attack the police. I was blown out of my...
Crowd chants, "Hang Mike Pence." There's a hangman's noose outside.
And when all of these techniques face-planted against him, Trump, with months and months of telling his supporters that the election was stolen against him, gave a speech on January 6th near the Capitol. Let me demonstrate a point, okay? How many times did Trump ask his protesters to be peaceful? Let's search it up. Peace. One time. It was mentioned here a single time and not nearly close to the end of his speech. How many times did Trump ask his supporters to fight? 20 times. All I'm gonna say is, if you were somebody who took every word that Trump said as truth, and you heard this statement come out of his mouth, then you'd be thinking, holy shit, I need to do something to save my country. I need to go do something. So this is essentially an urge for his supporters to go fight. I don't care if you mentioned peacefully once. So we're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue, and we're going to the Capitol, and we're going to give it a try. We need to take back our country. This is what he said at the end of his speech. And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down, and we're gonna walk down. Do not tell me that Trump did not try and instigate this. Peaceful my ass. Now you might be thinking, oh, but Trump never explicitly said to go and storm the Capitol. Trump never said something like that. Bro, think of yourself as being in Trump's position. If you wanted them to storm the Capitol, will you flat out say, go storm the Capitol? Are you really going to indict yourself and put yourself into prison? Guarantee. If Trump had said that, he would have been fucked. Major. Except Trump did not say that because Trump was sly in his word. Trump wanted to speak in a way that would prompt his supporters to storm the Capitol, but not quite enough to indict himself. Why would Trump flat out indict himself and tell his supporters, go storm the Capitol building? Why would he do that? Of course he would be sly with his words. And considering how many Republicans still defend him to this day, I think Trump was pretty successful in making sure he wasn't held accountable for this. And we fight like hell. If you don't fight like hell, you're not gonna have a country anymore. Do not tell me that because Trump mentioned peacefully one time that somehow he didn't intend on this happening. And if you're still not convinced, Trump's daughter asked him to intervene in the riot. Trump's son asked him to intervene. His advisors were begging him to, hey, you need to tell them, stop attacking the Capitol building. His own family members told him to go stop. He's got to condemn this shit ASAP. His own family members wanted Trump to speak out against the riots that were happening and put a halt to what was going on. All of this just makes me think Trump wanted to see how far he could possibly go to delay the results. He wanted to test his power to delay the election proceedings as much as humanly possible. And why, you ask? Because his goal, if he could not overturn the election, is at least sow as much doubt about the 2020 election as much as possible. He wanted a big subsection of America to think Biden was an illegitimate president. Because Trump, at the end of the day, he is obsessed with winning. He's good in a competitive grind setting. I admire that in people. I can respect it in people, but not in leaders that should represent a free liberal democracy. Read the official 2024 Republican Party platform here. Let's go, why not? 2024 GOP platform, make America great again. After nearly 4 years of the Biden administration, America is now rocked by raging inflation, open borders, rampant crime, attacks on our children, and global conflict stability. And I love the font here. Dude, this font, what is this font? What is this capital letter bullshit going on? My fucking neurodivergent ass from middle school wrote more professional shit than this. If your official campaign platform looks like this, I have no idea what to tell you. So, okay, apparently under Biden, there's a mass increase of unauthorized immigrants entering the US. So let me explain something. Yes, there were more of an increase of illegal immigrants at the border, probably because of COVID related stuff and also because Biden has been vocally more softer on the border. So yes, they did approach the border by a larger number. There were an increase of migrants at the border. There were more apprehensions, but the actual raw number of illegal immigrants in the country didn't actually increase substantially, at least not to the level of extrapolation as the GOP claims. As you can see, this was in 2019, 10.2, and in 2022, 11.0. It is not as big of an issue as Republicans make it out to be. This is also not mentioning the fact that illegal immigration has gone down recently. If you look here from 1990 to the mid-2000s, under the presidencies of Clinton and Bush, the number of unauthorized immigration increased by a lot. They don't really have anything on Biden. This is pretty negligible. It was mostly that Republicans were very effective in their messaging against Biden, and also Harris. So what are the consequences of a bunch of these illegal immigrants coming into the country? They cite crime rate and jobs. Well, here's the funny thing. The crime rate of illegal immigrants is actually lower than US-born natural citizens. Now that's weird to you because you probably picture some drug smuggling gang member But here's the thing, I know people personally whose parents are illegal immigrants. They're not bad people. They just wanted a better life for their kids. And yeah, of course, there are instances where illegal immigrants are gonna commit violent crimes, of course. But it's kind of selective because on a widespread scale, they aren't actually doing as much damage as they like to indicate. They're higher than undocumented immigrants and higher than documented immigrants as well. So immigrants that came here legally and illegal immigrants commit lower crimes than actual US-born citizens. Another thing, violent crime, same thing as well. My theory for this is that undocumented immigrants obviously want to stay on a down low because they're not gonna go commit violent crimes when they want to stay in the country. Trump has announced an effort to deport a shit ton of these illegal immigrants. Now, here's the problem. Illegal immigrants power the American economy. You know all these shit jobs that regular people don't want to do? Like this? Illegal immigrants do it instead of you. Shouldn't you be grateful that they're doing this instead of you? That they're doing all these strenuous, hard labor tasks with low wages? These are bullshit wages that people do just to stay alive, and they're doing it instead of you. But you want to deport them out of what? Out of some farce that somehow illegal immigrants are destroying the country? I just think it's rhetoric for Trump to try and divide and conquer. Look, the United States needs illegal immigrants. They do all the shit jobs for American citizens. Let's go with the argument that Republicans do care about the rule of law. Sure, you might say, well, you still can't accept undocumented immigrants into the United States. We have to uphold the rule of law, which is kind of ironic considering Donald Trump is your party leader. But okay, let's really get into the nits and grits. Here's the funny part. Trump blocked a bill that could have strengthened the border, and it also would have helped curb the spread of fentanyl. So why did Donald Trump ask the Republicans to block the border bill? Because it would help his re-election chances by making it a talking point. The border issue would have been solved. Then Trump can't attack Biden for it. So if Mr. Donald J. Trump thinks the border is a big issue, then I wonder why the fuck he blocked the border bill. Because he wanted to win re-election. It's a political move. If the border crisis is this urgent, why did you block the border bill when you had the opportunity to strengthen the border? Anyways, this whole rhetoric about illegal immigrants and immigrants coming in and stealing jobs, doing horrific things, it's all just a way to scapegoat the US on real problems. His recent claim about eating the cats and dogs is ridiculous. No evidence. Is not a Haitian immigrant. Look, JD Vance admits he is willing to create stories to get media attention, demonizing Haitian immigrants. Dude, if you think this is fake news, just do your own research. You'll find this stuff. Don't trust 4chan, don't trust TikTok, don't trust what you see on Instagram, don't trust what you see just upfront on social media, especially short-form content. Do your research. This is bullshit. Trump and their campaign love to make the claim about how crime is up on a huge, massive rise. The Biden administration has left crime unchecked, and now it's a huge crisis. Now, take a look at this data. Crime rate used to be immensely high in the 90s, and then it dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped, and it dropped quite significantly compared to back then. This was the crime rate under Trump. And under Biden, here, it decreased. Crime rate decreased, but I heard from all these people that crime rate is on the rise. Well, no, it's not. It has decreased since Biden took office, even in big cities. Overall, most violent crimes are at or below levels seen in 2019. This was a year Trump was in office. There is no rise in crime, so all this rhetoric about crime, it's all bullshit. Now let's talk about the economy, a place where Trump has a big edge and where people think Trump does better. So let me pull up some data. GDP growth rates from 1961 to So let's take a look at recent data, okay? This was Obama, okay? Obama right here, GDP growth rate. So this is the economy experiencing growth. Obama and Trump, you can barely tell the difference. I'm not saying Trump was horrible or terrible for the economy, but when Trump makes the claim that we had the greatest economy ever, it's not true. When Trump says we were doing so much better than Biden, that's also not true. So this is when COVID tanked the economy, which by the way happened under Trump. But look, I don't blame COVID for Trump. In the same way, I don't blame COVID for Biden. Both Biden and Trump had to respond to the COVID pandemic, so they both passed bills that involved stimulus packages, and those stimulus packages caused inflation, definitely, for sure. But I don't blame Trump nor Biden for this. But even if you look at it here, you can see Biden made a swift recovery. Now take a look at this. Trump approved a $5 trillion debt increase. Biden approved a $2.2 trillion debt increase. These are non-COVID initiative. With COVID, it's a different story and I don't count it, but this is stuff excluding COVID. So this rhetoric about Trump being very good for the economy, it's I don't know, man. So yeah, one of Trump's big claims is that the unemployment rate was at its lowest in 50 years or something like that. But as you can see, it trended down. So this was during Obama. This is where Obama ended his presidency, so it was a trend. And then obviously COVID hit, shit ton of people were unemployed, but then this was during the Biden administration, he was able to bring unemployment down, and then all the way down here. In fact, lower than the unemployment rate during Trump. And yeah, it's gone up a little bit, but people are giving too much credit for Trump on the economy. Biden, in my opinion, made a very strong economic recovery, which he was able to do within a single term. Inflation reaches lowest point in 3 years, though some price pressures remain. But in general, inflation has decreased. Consumer inflation? Look at it. It's gone down under the Biden administration. Corona pandemic declared and boom, the price of goods increased, and then Biden was able to reach it down. And now, since inflation has gone down a considerable amount, the IMF wants to actually decrease interest rates, which is a good thing. What about tariffs? Should we make China pay? The thing is, China never pays for tariffs. So I'd say the best way to describe a tariff is 2 words. An import tax. Let's say this hat was manufactured in China. It probably is, I don't know. Then the person who sells the hat to me has to buy this hat from China. And when they're buying that hat from China, they get charged a tax for that. That is what tariffs are. So because they get charged a tax for buying this hat, when they're reselling it to the people within their country, such as myself, they will charge extra to make up for the tax that they paid to buy this hat. And because of this, tariffs increase the price of goods considerably for a lot of things, because a lot of things are foreign imported. But the plot twist is that China at no point ever actually pays for any of the tariffs. Not a cent, not a penny. Trump ran a trade deficit because of the tariffs. There were GDP losses, and Trump's newly proposed tariffs are expected to reduce GDP growth by 0.2%, cause job losses of 142,000. Anyways, it's not looking very good. My question is it really the time now when the economy is in a state of weakness, especially as emphasized by the Trump campaign? Trump was given an opportunity to defend his economic policies. Rogan asked him, hey, didn't your policies increase the national deficit? Trump said something odd. He said, if COVID hadn't happened, then we would have been able to pay it off. Even before COVID, people were reporting the problems with the Trump tax cuts and the tariffs. It just wasn't working in Trump's favor. Trump defended his tariff policy by mentioning President William McKinley, which was a president in the late 1800s. This was a president in the Gilded Age, and he basically said, oh, look at William McKinley. He was the tariff king. He did great things for the country.
Did you just float out the idea of getting rid of income taxes and replacing it with tariffs?
Well, okay.
Were you serious about that?
Yeah, sure. But why not? Because ready? Our country was the richest relatively in the 1880s and 1890s. A president who was assassinated named McKinley. He was the tariff king. He spoke beautifully of tariffs. We will not allow the enemy to come in and take our jobs and take our factories and take our workers and take our families unless they pay a big price. And the big price is tariffs.
When William McKinley was president, and this was an era of child labor, when children were in coal factories, they had to beg their bosses to give them an extra lump of coal so they wouldn't freeze to death that winter. How is it logically sensible at all to refer to that era to defend your economic policies? And some of you might be thinking, well, didn't Trump's policies help the manufacturers? Didn't they help the American worker? Didn't they bring back jobs? Well, let's take a look at manufacturing jobs in the US. So Obama here, Obama here, Obama here, Obama here. Trump enters office. You can't really tell the difference. I guess you can experience some slight growth. This is before COVID. You can see some losses here. It's been going down, minus 3%. And yes, some bounding here, some rebounding, and then COVID. Essentially, did Trump do anything significant to bring back manufacturing jobs? No, not really. But I want to bring your attention, folks, to the corporate tax rate, okay? Harris called for a corporate tax rate from 21% to 28%. So she's increasing the tax on big corporations, big billionaires, okay? Now, if you think this is crazy, you know, the corporate tax rate when Trump took office was 35%. On the other hand, Trump has wanted to decrease the current corporate tax rate of 21% to 15%. So essentially, Trump is sort of just shilling for big corporations. This would mostly benefit the rich. Most of you are not the rich. Alright, and now I want to just quickly debunk the talking point about how under Trump's presidency there were no new wars. Well, same with Barack Obama, same with Ronald Reagan, same with Bill Clinton. Many modern presidents actually did not end up having wars start. And it's not like Biden started the war in Ukraine, started the war in Gaza. In fact, it's funny because you dudes like to complain about how the US polices the world, yet when Biden ended a forever war and finally withdrew troops from Afghanistan, you guys shit on him. And yeah, it was a botched withdrawal, but if you're 100% attributing that to Biden, then and here's the ironic thing. It was under Trump's presidency where he increased military presence in Afghanistan by about 50%. Not only that, but the rate of drone strikes under Trump was also supposedly higher than Obama's. We don't know all of the drone strike numbers because it was under both presidents that the drone strike numbers were kept pretty hidden. It was only in 2016 when Obama decided to make it more transparent and Trump revoked that, so we don't know the full 100% numbers. Trump's presidency caused a lot of chronic confusion about the US's priorities because it was so chaotic. There was no balanced foreign policy plan approach. Do you think that if Trump wins, that the Ukraine war will magically disappear into oblivion? The war in Gaza is magically going to be solved? No, Trump has no clear foreign policy goal. And some people might argue that's a good thing because unpredictability might work better in a foreign policy setting. But that's precisely the problem. It's a gamble. We don't know if those effects will be good or bad. So essentially on foreign policy, you're basically making a gamble as to what's going to happen when you vote for him. I also see an issue when Trump just kind of shits on all of the US's allies. It just adds another layer of uncertainty. Because if you are distancing yourself from your allies, then that does weaken your position in terms of foreign relations. So, how much can Trump actually do to bring peace to the world?
I'm gonna bomb the shit out of them. It's true.
Trump has made more than 100 threats to prosecute or punish perceived enemies. So what sorts of threats has Trump made? What sorts of calls for retribution has he made? Okay, well, here's a giant-ass list here for you. Yeah, these are the amount of threats that Trump makes. And you know, threats are not good for the economy either, because when you create a condition of instability, business owners and CEOs, foreign investors, what they're looking for is stable government. When your government is chaotic, when CEOs are under threat, Trump has threatened CEOs, then it makes it hard to manage a stable economy. The fact that Trump continues to make threats against his political opponents, say that he's going to lock them in jail, all of these things just cannot be brushed aside. And if you might be thinking, oh, didn't they try to put Trump in jail? Yeah, but Biden and Kamala didn't advocate for that. Trump outright advocates for putting political opponents in jail. Even Kamala, when supporters were chanting, lock him up, Kamala just responded to them and said, we'll let the courts decide that.
Hold on. You know what? Here, hold on. Here's the thing. The courts are going to handle that. We're going to beat them in November.
So, even in Trump's first term, he tried to investigate Hillary Clinton.
Oh, Trump wanted to put her in jail. No, I saved her from going to jail.
Trump actually pressured the Attorney General to go dig up shit on Clinton. A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for a termination of all rules, even those found in the Constitution. Is this a patriotic president to you? Do you know anything about the upside-down flag that Trump supporters use? The fact that with the current checks and balances, Trump was able to go this far is a major concern for me. And luckily under Biden, they were able to pass some improvements to the checks and balances, but the work isn't done yet, and we can't have Trump coming into power a second time to fuck it all up before it's even fixed.
He died like a dog. He died like a coward. The world is now.
America was founded upon the premise of liberty and self-governance. People are free to govern themselves, and they are free from oppressive rule. Kings and authoritarian leaders, don't belong in America. That is why the US broke off from the British monarchy. Leaders don't go around doing whatever they please. They are held accountable to the people that they represent. This is true even in a republic. And the Constitution establishes these institutions. They highlight the rule of law, checks and balances, and the separation of powers. When Trump tests his limits and undermines the rule of law, he goes against the very core foundations of what America was founded on. Making threats to jail your political opponents, saying the election was rigged, undermining your right to vote? Is this in line with what you see in a free liberal democracy? And of course it's not just rhetoric. From the slew of bullshit he did during his first term to his post-2020 election cope, it is clear to me that he is serious. He is serious about retribution.
I am your retribution.
He is serious about revenge. This is not some risk that you can just brush aside. This is not something that you can just assume, oh, Trump is just trolling again. This is all just rhetoric. Trump always says wild things. No, and now with a bunch of loyalists by his side, somebody who no longer needs to worry about running up for re-election again, this is quite concerning. And sometimes I hear these morons make the statement that, oh, it's a republic, it's not a democracy. They think it's as if those two concepts are mutually exclusive to one another. They're not. A republic without democratic principles is an authoritarian regime. And considering how polarized the United States is today, you want more of this political shit show? You know, Trump opens up a Pandora's box for more anti-democratic sentiment. The next leader might enact the same things that Trump did, yet they'll be able to get away with it because Donald Trump was able to get away with it. It's called democratic backsliding. Maybe the next leader who is against your values might act in an anti-democratic way, yet you can't speak out against them because, well, you don't have the credibility to. You didn't speak out when Trump was undermining the rule of law. Even if you are a Trump supporter, you should be wary of anti-democratic rhetoric. The fact that Trump was able to go this far, you should consider the potential risk of a second Trump presidency. Maybe even after all this, you still want Trump to win because you want to bring back a more conservative Christian America. So in this case, I want to say this. If you think that Trump still has a net benefit in terms of pragmatic results for the country, I beg to differ. I think Trump's policies resemble a form of crony capitalism, where big tech companies gain more influence over the affairs of the government. Are we getting closer to a Christian America when a society is run on greed, corporatism, and neglects the poor? I do not think the way of going about spreading moral values is by enacting a top-down form of government to try and influence the people. It just doesn't work like that. And maybe form organizations, make more of an effort to help the poor. You got organizations, churches. Why do you need the government? I think the church and state should be kept separate. With a second Trump presidency and his policies enacted, I think the US might get closer to something resembling more of a society that looks kind of like cyberpunk, where big corporations are mostly in control of society. And added on with that, with Trump disenfranchising your right to vote, the country might resemble something that looks more like Russia, but a more creative and innovative version of one. But yeah, jailing your political opponents, disenfranchising your right to vote, undermining the rule of law, corporations getting to control society, why isn't this just Russia 2.0? When I'm seeing all these big tech guys like Elon Musk being aligned to Trump, it's quite concerning. What are freedom cities, by the way? This guy has dedicated himself to getting Trump to win. $47 to get a new person to vote for Trump? This is nuts. And Elon is not going to be an elected leader. So why does Elon get to dictate how the country runs? Or any rich billionaire or corporation at all? I don't quite buy the idea that Trump is the solution to this moral degradation in American society. And arguably, I think the potential backlash from what you're going to get with a Trump victory might override any short-term benefit you got anyway. All you really acquire is short-term benefits and long-term risks for the country in the long run. So if you are voting for Trump, I don't hate you. I don't hate Trump either. I think this polarization is awful. I just hope you opened your mind just a little bit. When people say I am exaggerating the threat of Trump, I hope they're right. I hope that I get proven wrong, okay?
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats.
I like Trump the dude. I like the person. I think he's funny. I think he can even be inspiring. I love how he was an underdog and then became this figure that everyone took seriously. He's such a contrast from this typical politician who prepares every single thing they say in public. It's all pre-planned bullshit. And in comparison, Trump is very raw. He's real. Well, aside from when he's lying. But Trump represents a unique kind of threat to America that I don't think can just be brushed aside. I don't think this is reconcilable. More often than people would like to admit, I'm pretty sure a lot of people vote solely based on their personal sentiments towards the candidate. I think you should vote based on results rather than voting based on sentimental feelings you have towards that person and candidate. I understand that if you're a young guy, you'd probably want to sit down and be friends with Donald Trump more than you would want to be friends with Kamala Harris. And it's probably vice versa for a lot of young women as well. And I understand Trump is the more memey candidate. He's funnier, he's more exuberant. He's just a lot more entertaining to watch. So yeah, young men, do not vote solely based on vibes. That is peak NPC behavior. Anyways, I think regardless of who wins, there's going to be a lot of social chaos from the aftermath of the election. So my best wishes to the United States. I'll be streaming on Twitch during the evening of the election, so if you can make it there, I'll see ya. Bye-bye.
Now we gather due to a selfish man's injured pride and the outrage of supporters who he has deliberately misinformed for the past 2 months and stirred to action this very morning. For any who remain insistent on an audit in order to satisfy the many people who believe that the election was stolen, I'd offer this perspective. No congressional audit is ever going to convince these voters, particularly when the president will continue to say that the election was stolen. The best way we can show respect for the voters who were upset is by telling them the truth. The truth is that President-elect Biden won the election. President Trump lost. I've had that experience myself. It's no fun.
I won by I lost by I didn't lose, but they say I lost, Joe.
These United States of America, we are not a vessel for the schemes of wannabe dictators.
Yay!
The United States of America is the greatest idea humanity ever devised.
Yes!
I thank you all. God bless you.